At least for me, if there's one card that makes playing the Pokemon trading card game actually enjoyable in a game that's usually just dominated with VMAX Pokemon cards, it's this Orbeetle. It allows you to play with a variety of cards with really cool abilities that a lot of people don't even know exist because they're not always in the meta. So one card that makes Orbeetle far more usable is Rillaboom. You need some sort of energy acceleration because the Pokemon that you're putting into play won't have energies on them right away, and Rillaboom allows you to immediately power up most Pokemon as long as you just have one extra energy in your hand. Some of the amazing cards that I like to use in this deck is Dusknoir, which turns off special energies, Shiftry, which doesn't allow your Pokemon to play certain supporter cards like Boss, Beedrill, which will destroy anyone with special energy, Decidueye, which can't get hit by V-Pokemon, the Rapid Strike Rillaboom that can do a massive amount of damage when teamed up with the other Rillaboom, Cinderace, which can do a bunch of damage and you're normally behind on prize cards by the time you take it out anyways, Galarian Obstagoon, which can reduce the size of your opponent's hand, and Hatterene, which allows you to retreat with any Pokemon regardless of the cost. So the draw engine that makes this deck work is Cramorant. It is weak to being Marnied, but it is really necessary because it doesn't eat up a lot of bench space, and you need those bench space for when you get the Orbeetle out to get more Stage 2 Pokemon out. Now I'll talk about some of the trainer cards that I use in this deck. I use 4 Sanyas. It's really important to get those basic Pokemon out right away, and this is a good way of making sure that you just don't have a crap hand that you can't do anything with in the beginning. But you're also going to need cards like Marnie and Caitlyn, if I'm pronouncing that right, just to get some of these cards back into your deck. I also use Peonia in case I prized one of the cards that I really want to have out there, like Dusknoir, which can just win me a game. And then a bunch of item cards. I think it's obviously important to have the Evolution Incense and Rare Candy, and this deck does go through a lot of energies, and it has a lot of energies in it, so the Energy Recycler is also very helpful. Before everybody started using the Shady D-Link's Drizzle, this deck actually used to be very good. It's weak to being Marnied, so you kind of hope that they only use 1 or 2 of them before they kind of run out or need to use a different supporter card. But if you can get past that and get your Orbeetle set up, this deck is just an absolute blast. But what's cool about this deck is that you're kind of free to make it your own way, and there's a lot of different Stage 2 Pokemon that you're able to experiment with. So I hope you enjoy, and here are some of my matches to show this deck off. So these aren't the best matches that I've ever had while playing this deck. I've played this deck like 500 times. When I do play this game, this is primarily the deck that I use. It's really fun. When new cards come out, you can just kind of swap out different Stage 2s. So I played this deck a lot against a lot of other like top tier decks, and you know, I've won against them sometimes. You don't always win against top tier decks. I mean, there's a reason why they're up there. But you can still get wins occasionally. Which is just, this deck is just super fun in a lot of different ways. The reason why I use this Blipbug here, the one with Call for Family that has less HP, it does suck that it's got 40 HP because it can immediately be one hit by just an Inteleon V with 1 energy. So that is a huge downside. I did experiment with 2 of these 40 HP Blipbugs with 150 HP Blipbug, but the reason why you want this 40 HP Blipbug is because this deck doesn't have a lot of like Professor's Research, and it's none of those, and it's only got 2 Marnies, and it's only got 1 Caitlyn. It doesn't have a lot of different cards that allow you to search for more cards in your deck. The main way that you're drawing cards and that you're setting up your Orbeetle is with Cramorant. And Cramorant allows you to draw 2 of whatever card you want, but ends your turn. It can get taken up by Marnie pretty easily, but it's really good at being able to draw an Evolution Incense and draw a Rare Candy or something at the same time. And you can do that with multiple different Pokemon if they don't Marnie you. So, and it only eats up 1 bench spot, so it's really helpful in a lot of different ways. In this instance, it doesn't really matter too much because I already had the cards that I wanted without even using Cramorant. You have to get pretty lucky to get that, but it pretty much sets it up where you never have a dead hand if you have a Cramorant out there. And you're able to get Cramorant out there even if it's much slower and you're probably going to lose anyways. you can still get a Cramorant out there a little bit later than what you want it with that Blipbug. The only way that you're getting a dead hand completely is just with the Grookey, but the Grookey's so good when you get that Rillaboom out that allows you to draw more energy. And at this point, the reason why I didn't grab the Rillaboom that allowed you to get more energy is because I have one in my hand and I'm hoping, just hoping, that I can get a rare candy. Especially with the Marnie in my hand, but the Marnie really wouldn't help because I'd have to give up the Rillaboom anyways. But yeah, normally what you'd want to do with 2 energy is probably just grab the Rapid Strike Rillaboom or the Beedrill. The Beedrill is also a good choice here because he can attack with 1 energy. You have to discard it, but he could one-hit this card that he's super effective against with just his Stinger attack or whatever. The one that does 110, I believe. But yeah, this combination right here is just great. So if you have the Rillaboom that gives you 2 energies from your deck that you can put on your Pokemon per turn, and then you can put your other energy on per turn, and it's almost as good as like what Welder was. Even Welder, you needed to have those energy cards in your hand. I mean, you were able to draw 3 more cards, but it was a supporter, so you don't have to use a supporter, and you can just grab 2 energy. It's that Rillaboom for energy acceleration is absurd. It's a ridiculously good card, and you can use it in a large variety of ways, where if you just need 1 colored energy and 2 colorless energy, you could use that 1 fire energy that you need, or that 1 darkness energy that you need, and then just use Rillaboom to power up whatever Pokemon you want. 3 energy card slots can immediately be powered up in 1 turn, which is great with this Orbeetle since you get a lot of different Pokemon that have no energy that you're sending out there. But at this point, this is just kind of an early game. I thought I'd show off. It's a pretty easy one. It helped that I had type advantage here, but to be honest, it didn't matter. I could do, with that 4 energy on there, 240 damage with that Rillaboom by just discarding all the energy. And since I can throw 3 more energy on it per turn, I was beating this guy regardless if I had type advantage. Mainly, he just didn't really have a good setup quick enough. And I don't know if it's a mill deck or what it is he's trying to play there with that shovel. But this was a pretty easy first win. And you'll see a little bit more of the deck in the next round. Okay, so this one did start out a little bit late for recording. I didn't start recording the match as soon as it started. Some of these matches are not the absolute best matches to show off the deck, but my computer has been super slow and I need to restart it. So yeah, I kind of get what I get here for just recording these, or just using the ones that I was able to record. And I don't know, I could have played longer to get better matches, but these ones, you know, I think like this one in particular is pretty good. I did make a lot of mistakes, if I remember correctly, in this match, so there's a bit of that going on, but you can still see how good this deck is, assuming you can get Orbeetle out on your second turn, or which is usually the ideal, that you start out with a Cramorant or a Sanya, or even if you start out with just a Blipbug and a Sanya and a switch, you can switch, use an energy on the Cramorant, and then the Orbeetle's on the bench. So there's a lot of different ways of being able to get your Orbeetle powered up, at least evolved. You don't always get the twin energy, but at least evolved in its second turn or third turn. Obviously, Marnie can change that where it takes more and more turns to power it up, but I don't know. It can still be done relatively feasibly, unless you're playing like the best tier decks all the time. So here I'm using my kind of side deck. It's got a variety of different Pokemon cards in it, like it's got that Grimmsnarl, and that Grimmsnarl is awesome. I didn't use it to the best of its ability in this particular fight, but it makes it where your opponent needs an extra energy just to attack it when it's in the active. So it can really stall out a lot of opponents, and then it does okay damage. Not an absurd amount with its attack, but its attack does like 100 and then I think 30 for each energy attached to the opposing Pokemon, which is always going to be at least 1 more energy if they want to attack with it. So it's just really good for catching enemies off guard, because a lot of people aren't aware of it, and them needing an extra energy to do something can be really effective. Here, I was looking at that Cinderace, I was doing some math, and there's one thing I didn't calculate for, and that's that the Cinderace has 2 Pyro energies, or the ones that give him more HP. So I made a little bit of a mistake here on trying to calculate this stuff. Another thing that's good about this deck is if you have a Rillaboom and a Cramorant and an energy in your hand, you can spit shot on like every single turn. And this deck has 2 different energy recyclers in it that give you 5 energies back. So you can attack with Cramorant V very consistently if you have a Rillaboom out there. The other 2 cards that I threw on the bench are a Samurott and Magnagross or Metagross. I forgot which it is. The Metagross, I don't have the steel energy required to attack with it. Its attack isn't bad, but really it's just there to give free retreat to all of my Pokemon. And then you can pair that up with a Galar Cave or Galar Mine to make it where they can't retreat very easily. So just being able to retreat however it is you want, and it really, I've only had it happen like once or twice where I faced that deck while I had a Metagross out there, but it can really screw up someone that's trying to play like a Leafeon V, where they're doing like no damage because all of your Pokemon have no retreat cost. But you can really see how effective it is with a Pokemon that needs just 1 colored energy, and here I thought I killed him, so I was pretty disappointed that that didn't happen, but just a mistake by me. I should have sent out the Samurott. I think that would have done enough since it's super effective against the Cinderace to take it out, and I think I would have been sitting in a better spot. But he does require another energy just to attack with a Grimmsnarl. He's at least aware of that and has another energy in his hand, but that's not always the case. Especially with the, a lot of the best decks. How many energies do they really have in their deck? 8? So it can be really difficult for some of those decks to deal with having to have another energy than what it is that they're expecting. And this Samurott also has a Pokemon power where it takes 30 less damage from attacks, so at least minimum it's got 190 HP, because you need to do that much damage to take it out unless you remove its Pokemon power. But that's just kind of like an added bonus. The real reason why that Samurott's good is because you're able to take 2 energy off of your opponent's Pokemon and put it back into their hand. And if they don't have good energy acceleration, that can slow down a lot of different people. So that's what I'm happy about right here. He put 2 energy on his Cramorant. He's got nothing else on his bench. I'm thinking that this is pretty darn good because I can put those 2 energy right back into his hand. And he at least can't attack with that Cramorant, which is the reason why I assumed he put an energy on it, was because he was charging it up for Dive Bomb. Really, I should, if I attack him, I kind of screw this up. I should just put 1 energy back into his hand. I'm pretty sure I put 2, but 1 energy would stop him from being able to Dive Bomb, and I really don't need to take another energy and give it back to him. But I feel like I'm at a pretty big advantage. This fight does carry on longer than it should have because I do make a few key mistakes, but at this point I'm already at a pretty sizable advantage against a type that is super effective against a lot of the Pokemon I have in my deck. Since I do use grass energies, I do use a lot of different grass Pokemon, but that is the nice thing about being able to use Rillaboom and power it up with just a single water energy and then just 2 grass, is that I can play with a variety of different types if I want to. And that really gives you access to a lot of the Stage 2 Pokemon that you're able to play. And if you really don't like Rillaboom, it makes it a little bit more difficult because you have to discard the energy. There's also, I'm trying to think of what the guy's name is, but it's like the guy that's like a lava golem. He can take 2 energy cards too, straight from your discard pile and put them back onto your Pokemon if it's a fighting and fire. So you could also make a deck with that type of thing, and I have done it and fiddled around with the idea. And it was still fun, but just overall, it's so good to just grab 2 energy from your deck and just put it on there. Here, I think attack's not really worth it at this point. I'm not killing the Cramorant, and I just figure I may as well get that Rillaboom out. It would have been nice to have Beedrill, but Beedrill's in my hand, so sadly I couldn't get it into play. But get that Rillaboom out and just start powering up cards with my other Rillaboom. Here he thinks it's a smart idea to just put that Rillaboom in there and stall with the 3 energy cards it needs to retreat, But it doesn't need 3 energy, because I have a Metagross that he completely forgot about, or was unaware of its ability working that way. So I'm able to put the 2 energy onto my Rillaboom, and it does suck that I don't have another energy in my hand, because then I would be able to attack with that Rillaboom. But here I just figure I'll grab a boss, because that can give me a pretty good win condition if he doesn't Marnie me or something like that. I can't use the boss this turn because I just used the Skylaw, but next turn it should be pretty helpful. And I still do have a Cramorant where if I get another energy in my hand, I can immediately power it up with Rillaboom and attack something on his bench if he tries to retreat. But really, since I need 3 prizes, I should really just be trying to target that Cinderace. And it looks like the main point of his deck is to just heal. It seems like it's to get a lot of HP with that Fire Energy card on the Cinderace, attack with the Cinderace, and then just heal. Which, there are other decks that are like that. But if you are able to one-hit all of their Pokemon, it doesn't matter. So I make a huge mistake this turn. This game's over. I've already won. Because all I need to do is get these 2 energies into play, boss his Cinderace, and then retreat, which costs nothing, to my Rapid Strike Rillaboom, and use up all of my energy and destroy Cinderace. However, I don't do that because I just didn't read the situation appropriately. I attack this card for 2 prizes, which really don't matter because I could have ended it. And now he's able to kill my Samurott, so... But I figure here, I guess I was just thinking the game plan was, well, if he kills my Samurott, I can win with Rillaboom. But I could have won with Rillaboom that turn anyways, so... Just a bad play. And here he gets a boss, again, so he's able to kill the Rillaboom. He actually does see how much of a threat it is. And maybe he's just doing it because there's a lot of energy on it, but I think he sees how much of a threat it is. And I'm still alive by so many prize cards, and I can do so much damage to Cinderace before it does anything, that it's not really an issue. Like, I could switch, attack this card, which I think is what I'm going to do. I switch my Cramorant back, which I can throw him out there because everyone's got free retreat. Attack this card, and then I could attack with Cramorant next turn if he moves him onto the bench. So he'd need to heal every single damage counter from him, or he needs to have less than 20 damage counters on this card in order to save it from a Cramorant bomb. Which he does have a lot of heals, so I mean, he can try to make something like that happen. I don't think he played any lucky ice pops, so he doesn't have every single heal that's available. But yeah, if I would have been able to get Beedrill into play, that would have been absurd. If you can get Beedrill and Rillaboom, you're in a pretty good spot. And one card that's really underrated is in my main deck I have Shiftry. And Shiftry makes it where all their supporter cards just make them draw 3 cards. It doesn't seem absurdly good, Shiftry's attack isn't very good, but you put it out, it has to be in the front, but you put it out in the front, and then they can't boss you. So you can have Shiftry out there, they have to attack with their main attacker. And then you have a Beedrill or a super beefed up Rapid Strike Rillaboom on your bench, or a Cinderace, something that can do an absurd amount of damage that they don't want on their VMAX Pokemon. They want to attack first with their VMAX Pokemon on one of the guys that they actually want to attack. That removes that option. They could still maybe do something with like an escape rope and make me switch my Pokemon, but it completely removes the option of them being able to boss and attack who they want to attack first. So that card actually is very good in my main deck. But yeah, at this point, this match is already over. I can just attack with Cramorant, which I do, and I can just take this card out for 2 prizes, and I only need 1. And we're back with our third fight here. This one, I believe, is against an electric deck. And one nice thing about these fights is it can sometimes show off the power of just different cards. I don't have one, sadly, that shows off Cinderace or that Galarian Zigzagoon. What are they called in that? The Zigzagoon highest evolution. That one's great because it requires 3 colorless energy to do 180 damage, which is great for a darkness type because that means you can one-hit anything that's weak to it, any VMAX Pokemon. So that by itself makes it great because it can immediately be powered up in one turn with Rillaboom, but also it reduces your opponent's hand size to 4 cards, which can be really helpful against a lot of different decks. I don't play too many Marnie in this deck, I only have 3, so sometimes their hand sizes can get very large, and then you pull that bad boy out, and you can immediately make them discard like 6 cards or something. And they might be okay with discarding those cards now, but since they're, you know, making them waste resources is always a pretty darn good thing. This start is pretty good. It's not perfect because I don't have a rare candy or something like that, but it's not bad because if I'm able to get an attack off, you do always want to go second. I know that's counterintuitive to most decks, but that is very helpful to do because then you're able to attack with Blipbug if you want to, but also attack with Cramorant if you need to attack with Cramorant, and you're able to use Sanya if you got a bunch of Sanyas in your hand. So attacking second does work better the majority of the time, but you don't always get it. Here you just switch. I do want to keep that double colorless on the Blipbug because that'd be really good if I got that on an Orbeetle. And I do always grab the evolution incense instead of the exact Pokemon. In this case, it probably doesn't matter as much, but sometimes they'll use a boss and take out my Orbeetle. Which Orbeetle is an awful looking Pokemon, so they're not Orbeetle. Orbeetle's cool. Blipbug is an awful looking Pokemon. So it does suck that I have to have those in my deck, but a little side tangent. Sometimes they boss your Blipbug out, and they'll destroy it, and then it just leaves you with a Cramorant and a Grookey. Then you can use that Grookey to evolve it into a Rillaboom and at least attack with your Cramorant, depending on if you have an energy in your hand for each turn. He did not do anything of the sort in this game. Here, I'm hoping to use Peonia just because it's 3 cards, and I'm hoping one of them is a rare candy or a way to draw rare candy. None of them are. However, a boss is always a pretty good thing to get out of your prizes. My deck only plays with 1 boss, so pretty helpful to pull that one. Especially against a deck like his, that its main attack is that 1 energy Spark Trap attack. However, I will have a way to counter that, as you'll see shortly. Here, since I have that double colorless on there, it's not really too bad that I didn't get the Rillaboom, but it would have been nice to get the Rillaboom just because then I wouldn't have to use one of my Elemancy 3 Pokemon out as a Rillaboom. But the Rillaboom is so essential to power up everyone else that you do want it out. There is a chance here that I hope that I grab a rare candy and I don't grab it, but no, I grab the Rillaboom. So, probably going to grab the Rillaboom, the Rapid Strike Rillaboom, and the way that I'm able to attack his Pokemon is with Hattern. Hattern allows you to kind of flip-flop your Pokemon and their Pokemon once per turn. It's essentially like an escape rope, but not quite as good. And just being able to do that once per turn is amazing, because 1, it doesn't use up your retreat, so you could use that retreat, and if there's a Pokemon that has like a Pokemon power that it needs to be in the active spot to use, that's really good, you could use both of those cards to still get 2 retreats out per turn and not lose anything. Here, he bosses the Cramorant. He really wanted that kill. I'm not sold that this is a good move, not that I'm the best player ever, but he could have kept that on the board and took it out at any time if he had a boss. I guess maybe he was worried of losing his boss with the Marnie, but I don't think that was the best play out of all the plays he could have did. And here, since he used Spark Trap, I'm not going to attack with Hattern, so I'm just going to use Hattern's ability to get rid of that Pokemon card so I don't have to worry about Spark Trap. and flop to Orbeetle so I can get another guy out there. I could have also just flopped, well, if I grabbed an energy, I would have flopped to my Rapid Strike Rillaboom, but since I don't have enough energy to attack with it this turn, because I didn't draw an extra energy in my hand, I just figured Orbeetle here's the best play so that I could at least get another guy out with Orbeetle, but it wouldn't have been too bad to get rid of the Grookey first. I'm not sure if this deck plays one Scoop Up, it might. Scoop Ups don't really come in handy too much, so if there is a card that could be cut, I would say that that's up there. But every now and then, you can put some extra cards down because you're worried about what it is that they can do. And it's helpful to have a Scoop Up to remove them and then use Orbeetle's ability. This is a great play for us, so I mean, I don't really care if he kills the Grookey. In fact, in some instances, it'd probably help. But yeah, that's actually not too disadvantageous. But he doesn't even have enough to kill the Grookey, so it's just a free attack there. So at this point, I can use Hatterene now to swap to my Rapid Strike Rillaboom, and anything that he pulls out can get one hit, except for that VMAX he has back there. But I could do a lot of damage to that VMAX, so it still wouldn't be that bad. And doing a lot of damage to it really wouldn't be that bad either, because that's the one card I don't want him to pull out, is that VMAX. I don't think he realizes how strong this Rillaboom is, so he does pull out his Volthound. Poor move. He should have, I guess, not everyone knows how good some of these cards are, because people don't usually play these Stage 2 Pokemon. So it can be a pretty big advantage to just have that against most people that you play. But yeah, this guy, with 3 energies on him, which you need 3 energies to attack, if you discard all the energies on him, he's doing 210. And then if you have any other energies in play, that's 240, 270, 300, and if you have 4 extra energies in play, you're one-hitting any VMAX Pokemon, or almost all of them. So he is an absolute game wrecker. And it's easy to get those energies out in play with the other Rillaboom. And it's easy to get both Rillabooms in play with Orbeetle. I did try just a Rillaboom deck before, but Orbeetle is honestly easier than just using Rillabooms. So, just to get enough Rillabooms out to make you happy. So I was able to make the game tied there in prizes, even though he took out my VMAX. Or not VMAX, but my Cramorant V. I did used to play with the Cramorant VMAX because I figured why not, it's just one extra card and you can power it up with Rillaboom to make a lot of coin flips and do a lot of damage. But really losing that prize card really just wasn't good enough. The Cramorant V by itself is absurdly good for starting up, and it's a really good attacker for the late game, assuming you have a Rillaboom on your bench to power it up immediately in one turn. So you really don't need the VMAX, but you can have fun with it if you want to. It's a pretty cheap card to buy in real life, and that's a nice thing about this deck too. I bought this deck, so I only use cards that I have. Outside of maybe some of the trainers, which when I bought the Evolution Incense, they're just like 20 cents. I think they're a little bit more expensive now. Outside of some of the trainers, this deck's super cheap. Now, most people don't care, but most people are upset when they pull a lot of these like Stage 2 Pokemon cards. So this is a budget deck that's an actual budget deck. When most people say a budget deck and it's like, well, this is it's like, it's a budget deck, but it also uses like 4 Pokemon cards that cost $2 each. Because they're in a lot of decks, or it's a budget deck that has Drizzile and Inteleon in it. Those aren't budget decks. So, this deck actually is a budget deck, though I ended up spending a fair amount on it just because I like having the option of having a bunch of different Stage 2 Pokemon, so if a new Stage 2 Pokemon comes out in a deck that I like what it's doing, it's a card that I'll buy right away. It's usually just somewhere between 20 and 50 cents. I was going to buy the Rapid Strike Inteleon, the one that does quick shooting, but that one was immediately expensive. I think it was like, at the time when the set came out, it was like $1.50, and I'm like, I'm not paying $1 for a Pokemon card. But I probably should have bought one just to have it, because that card is way more expensive now. But here I figure I may as well just throw another energy on Hatterene in case they want to get rid of some energies. My main plan here is to do a little bit more damage to that VMAX Pokemon there with 4 energies on it, so that it'll be enough that my Hatterene can one-hit it with its attack, because it does Psychic, which does 30 plus 50 for each energy on the opposing Pokemon, which would be 230 damage since he's got 4 energy on him. But that's what I forgot about. I wasn't really paying attention when he used that energy switch, and I end up attacking that VMAX Pokemon when it has 3 energies on it, and it was a kind of big mistake by me. Though, yeah, my main plan here is I'll switch with the Hatterene so that I don't have to use any energy to retreat, and if he doesn't pull the Pokemon card that I want him to pull, I can just boss it, like he didn't there. But yeah, sadly I forgot that when he switched that energy off of him, that it had 1 less energy on it. I wasn't paying close enough attention, and I don't do enough to one-hit him. And now I have a very limited amount of cards on my bench, so I'm in a pretty bad spot. Still something I can work with. He's only got 1 card that can attack my Decidueye. And my Decidueye can one-hit it, so not an awful spot, but not really the greatest one either. This deck usually, I'd say people are drawing cards quicker than you too, so you can deck people out most of the time. Sometimes people are a little bit slower, but usually they're using a bunch of professors' research and stuff like that to get ahead of you in the card race. But you do use a lot of Rillaboom to draw energy out every turn, so you do go through a lot of your own cards too. So here I had to put the Cramorant down so that I could use the Marnie, but it kinda sucks that I had to, because now if he's got a boss, he can just boss that Cramorant and win the game. But I knew that there was a possibility I wouldn't grab one, especially since I lost one already earlier, and there were 2 of them in my hand. So I would not have been able to put a Cramorant down, and I want that Cramorant because here I assume that he has a boss. I want that Cramorant because I can power it up and it can just attack someone on the bench. And I'm even low on cards in my deck, which does happen with this deck. That's the reason why I have 2 energy recyclers in it. Well played. I'm like, well, even if you won, I'm just going to run through the motions here. I'll attack and do as much damage as I can. But I thought for sure he was well playing me because he had the boss. Either way, it would have been a fun close match. The Ordinary Rod, again, is another way that I could put energy back into the deck, which would have been helpful if I needed to attack with Cramorant. But in the end of the day, the Marnie might have screwed him out of a boss, which might have been why he was saying, nicely played. I was counting his bosses there. Sadly, I only saw 1, but when he used that hop, that means that I have game. So I was fairly happy to see that thing pop out, because now I could just switch, put an energy on Cramorant, attack one of his single prizers on the bench, and the game's mine. Really good match overall. It's not as many mistakes made by me as like that last one, so it was just a close one. That really could have went either way. I mean, if he would have drew another boss, and if he only had 1 in his discard, then he had a pretty good chance of it. But overall, really good match. So for the final fight, I'm actually facing, a deck that most people would consider in the upper ranges. I'm facing an Inteleon deck mixed with Rapid Strike Urshifu. The reason why I'm able to come out on top in this one at the end of the day is because I don't get Marnied early, and If you don't get Marnied early and I'm able to get Orbeetle out, I have a massive advantage in this game. And that's mostly just because if you're able to get Orbeetle out with 1 energy, chances are you have your Dusknoir in your deck. Or even a Beedrill would come in handy. But if you're able to get Dusknoir into play and destroy their special energies, you have a much better chance of winning than you do losing. And that is something I'm able to demonstrate in this game. It is more difficult to do now. It was actually super easy to do. I was destroying these decks when this first came out, when people weren't playing Sabo, Drizzle, and Inteleon with it for like the first month or 2. Or maybe even 3. It was quite a while that people didn't realize how great the Sabo and Inteleon line was, even though it was out for like a year and a half. It really shows how creative this community can be. But yeah, before those cards actually came along, you could really do work on these types of decks that require special energy. It's kind of funny how I really thought of using that card too, because it's like the way I just bought like 3 random packs. I collected a bunch of cards when I was a kid, and I just thought, screw it, I'm gonna sell some of these cards when they were like super, everyone wanted them or whatever. I had like a reverse holographic Moltres, which maybe I shouldn't have sold because I sold it to a store for like $60 instead of like the $180 it was worth, but I'm sure that's plummeted by now anyway, so it might not have been too bad of an idea. Hopefully the store made some money off of it too. But I had like one of those reverse holo original Moltres that came in like some legendary collection, and I figured, oh, what the heck, I have like some in-store credit that I'll use to just buy some like 3 random booster packs, and it was during the time that that Dusknoir set just came out, so I bought 3 random booster packs and got that Dusknoir, and I'm like, 3 turns off special energies? I don't know if that's good, but it's the only holographic I got, so I hope it is. Yeah, little do I know, it's like, people don't even want holographics anymore. They just want all those Vs and VMAX Pokemon. They're crazy upset if they get a holographic. That's not one of those. But yeah, it's just like, once I thought of Orbeetle, I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely going to throw that card in there. I think that card might be good. But yeah, just teaming up Orbeetle with Dusknoir is a no-brainer. There's no reason to not throw that one card into your deck that can completely shut off a large amount of decks. If you're playing Rapid Strike, can actually still attack relatively well with just 1 fighting energy and just retreating a bunch and doing like 150. Still a really good card. Single Strike is dead whenever you're using that type of attack. Yeah, and also with, you know, the card that turns off all of their special energies, you have a card that just destroys someone with special energies with Beedrill. And you can really use the combination of these different cards quite easily when you can pull out 2 or 3 of them per turn with an Orbeetle. So it's a much easier way to set up a variety of different stage 2s, and a lot of them combine in pretty fun ways to make just a completely different situation than if you'd build an entire deck just to try to get 1 or 2 stage 2s out. So here I'm already kind of in the driver's seat of this entire fight thanks to just turning off their special energies. It's a shame I couldn't get Beedrill out, just because that would have been very helpful to just one-hit this VMAX Pokemon. Instead I have to try to use Hattern's attack to do a lot of damage because it's weak to it, but still not really enough to one-hit it, which is normally what it is you go for with this deck. Is when you're facing a VMAX, you try to set it up in a way where you're either one-hitting it or pretty much completely one-hitting it. And it's pretty absurd that you're able to do that as frequently as you think you can, assuming you're actually able to get the Orbeetle set up, which of course is the difficult part the majority of the time, is just trying to get past that first initial stage. But yeah, here, that card is always a threat because it can attack for such high damage with 1 energy. But, so right now there's no energy on the board. I'm thinking that they don't really have a good way to accelerate energy inside of this deck. So my plan here is to just take out the Sobble, so I mean that is the 1 energy they had on the board. And it also removes the option of them for Drizziling. one of their Sobbles, which of course allows them to draw whatever card they want from their deck. So being able to just attack those and get them off the board pretty safely is always a pretty smart idea when you can do it. If I could get just one of, like if they only had one of them benched and then I could kill that one, that would be even better. But yeah, I'm kind of thinking here that they don't have any way to accelerate energy, and that's of course another colorless energy that they have right there. But they do have a Rose, and they do actually manage to put 3 energy on in a turn with that card, which is pretty absurd. But it's still just 1 fighting energy and 2 colorless, thanks to that spiral energy being a colorless energy. So all they can do is their 1 attack that attacks the guy in the active for 120. And from here, I can just keep on attacking with my Cramorant, because why not? I have Energy Recycler in my hand. They are dead drawing, so it would have been really nice if I could just attack the Sobble here and stop them from being able to do much else with it. But yeah, just taking out all of their energy in play and making sure they can't do any more damage to my Cramorant is a pretty smart idea too. But yeah, it's really nice, you know, that they're dead drawing at this point, but really they just didn't use the Marnie in the beginning, and once I'm able to get set up with this deck, it can take out the best decks, assuming you're actually able to get set up somewhat. Sadly, the only consistent way I know how to get set up was with Cramorant. Maybe I could try something like that V-Star Pokemon that's coming out that allows you to draw 2 cards. And maybe that could work a little bit more consistently because you can't get Marnied while doing it. But yeah, here I can just switch around my Pokemon. It doesn't cost me any energy thanks to Hattern. I really don't care who they have out there. I can one-hit any of them with Rillaboom. And I'm really not worried about what it is they're able to do to me. But make sure I got all of the energies. Make sure you don't screw up at the end or something that can cause the match to carry on a long time. Either way, it's a pretty easy win overall. I don't think they really got that much from me. They still have 5 prize cards left, and that's against a Rapid Strike card that also has the Drizzle and Inteleon line attached to it. So it's normally a pretty good deck, but yeah, if they allow me to get set up, it's pretty easy to destroy them. I hope you enjoyed watching. I always have a lot of fun playing this deck. So I hope that you guys give it a try too and try it out with some different Stage 2 cards, and I hope you enjoy it as well. Thanks, and catch you later.